Helping others is a natural instinct. To support, to guide, to offer time, energy, or perspective. And in many situations, this creates value. It strengthens relationships. It builds trust. It creates connection. But there are moments when helping begins to lose its purpose. Not because the intention changes, but because the context does. For example, a colleague struggles with a task. You explain the process, make time to support. They listen, apply what they learned, and improve. In this case, helping creates growth. But imagine the same situation unfolding differently. You explain once, then another time, and before long, the same pattern begins to repeat. In this case, help no longer creates progress. It begins replacing responsibility. The same dynamic appears in personal relationships. You try to support someone going through difficulty. You listen, offer perspective, remain present. At first, this feels valuable. But if nothing changes, if the same struggles continue without reflection, your role begins to shift from support to solution. And that is not sustainable, because meaningful growth requires personal participation. This is why stepping back is sometimes necessary. You allow space for the other person to engage with their own situation, to reflect, make decisions, take action. Because without that experience, meaningful change rarely happens, and stepping back creates that opportunity. There is also an emotional aspect. Constantly helping without progress may eventually create frustration, because when effort is repeatedly given without visible change, emotional balance begins to weaken. And eventually, that affects your clarity. This is why healthy boundaries matter, not only to protect your time, but to maintain the quality of your involvement. For example, instead of repeating the same advice, you may simply say, "I've shared what I know. The next step is yours." Calm, clear, respectful. Or in a work setting, instead of taking over a task, you define expectations. You guide once, then allow responsibility to remain where it belongs. This is not distance, it is structure, and structure encourages responsibility. In the end, helping is valuable, but only when it creates real change. Otherwise, it begins replacing responsibility. And sometimes, the greatest form of help is not doing more, but stepping back enough for another person to discover their own strength.